Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of I Would Like to Have a Conversation. We've just done 3 of these in a row, and this one is, well, this episode's with Talia. And she actually lives down the river. She lives down near Echuca. I think it's Echuca. But yeah, she lives down the river. And again, we talk about, this is a conversation around mums getting strong again after pregnancy and what it means and what changes in the body after pregnancy. These guys are really cold, so we're going to get them inside. You're going to say, thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody, and I'm not cold.
He's not cold, but I am. Let's
not
go.
cold.
See yous.
Bye. Bye.
Everyone, welcome back for another episode of I Would Like to Have a Conversation. And today I have Talia with me. I'm going to butcher your last name, so how do you say your last name?
Franskunas.
I was going to butcher that. Talia is like a coach to mums, but can you give a bit of a rundown of who you are, where you are, funnily enough, like literally down the river just from where I am, and who it is you work with? So it gives a bit of people a context before we get into our topic, which is postpartum passion projects, and a little bit more about, well, what it is that you do. So let's go with that. Start off there.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, firstly.
You're welcome.
My name's Talia. I've been a coach for about 13 years now.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, a while. I wasn't always in health and fitness. I actually started out as a corporate lawyer, so I did 5 years of corporate law and then threw in the suit and went off on my fitness tangent. Here I still am. So yes, like you say, I'm down the river from you. Can't say that about many people, but I'm based in Echuca, Moama. I work with mums locally in the area and then have an online business as well, which I sort of kicked off after I had my second daughter. So I've got 2 girls at home, mum myself, and I qualified pre-postnatal coach at the moment. So that's sort of where I've focused all of my energy lately. And like you say, I sort of have started on this postpartum passion project in the fitness industry the last, 4 years, I would say, maybe 5 years now. Yeah.
I remember when we talked originally, it was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah. And then we were just talking about before we press record, and you had this huge passion of helping mums get stronger. So just dive into that to start with, and we'll go off into wherever it goes off into. But I like that as the jumping off point for the postpartum passion project. What led you to just that phrase? I just want to help mums get stronger.
Yeah, well, I guess after I had my first daughter, I actually thought, maybe I've had enough of being in the fitness industry. I've been a PT for well over 10 years, and I was sort of like, oh, what else am I going to do now? New baby, new chapter, that sort of a thing. Sort of a bit fed up with, I don't know, I needed a change. And, then I had my daughter. I was getting back into exercise, connecting with a lot of mums in the community that I hadn't done until then, right? Like all of a sudden you're going to mums groups and play groups and all these sorts of things and talking about health and fitness to all of these women. And I just felt that there was no support there. I really felt there was a lack of support for mums to get strong again. Like we all hear this thing of, bounce back after your baby, get your pre-baby body back. And you have this thing in your head that's like, oh, like this is the thing I'm supposed to do, but how do I go ahead and do it? And, after I had my daughter myself, I went through all of those checkups and went back for my 6-week checkup. What do I do with exercise now? Like, doctor, tell me. They're like, oh, just ease back into things, see how you feel, which, for me, like I have training in this and I know what I needed to do for my body, but not many people have that. And I think that what it takes to get strong as a mum is much more than easing back into things, and it's much more than, going back to doing what you were doing before you were pregnant or during your pregnancy or whatever. Like there is a staged approach that we need to take for our bodies ultimately to perform well and feel strong again. And no one is doing this. No one's talking about it. And I was like, right, I'm going to start talking about this. Because I think that, you know, like people can do harm to their bodies. Like there's women walking around with prolapse and they don't know about it. They're going to a gym class and you're like, oh, I had a baby 8 weeks ago. And they're like, oh, cool, that's okay. It's like, where is the support? We're introducing our bodies to fitness professionals that are not helping us feel strong again and not helping us get our bodies moving well and feeling good, not just losing weight. Like, we can have a strong body now. We can.
Yeah. You nailed it in the sense because, I'm going on, about the same, 13, 14 years as a PT. I remember it would have been the same when you started. The info wasn't there. So coming through coaching mums, I had to go seek and find the information on postpartum and stuff. It's a little bit better now, but I don't know what you think, because I'm in that world. I feel like it's better, but then I go talk to people locally who are like, oh, I just come back to netball. I'm like, oh, when did you have your kid? 8 weeks ago. I'm like, oh, holy moly. They're like, oh, I feel good. I'm like, and I just don't say it like, good on ya, but there's such a big knowledge gap. And I know I'm not throwing stones at our hospital here, but it's very much once you have a kid, you're out very quick, and there's no real guidance on best steps to come back to fitness. And when, I don't know how you say it, but the way I used to say it to the mums I coach is like, it's like it just had a major surgery, which it kind of is. And we've got to rehab to get back to what you were before, or even better. And I believe you can almost get back to the same or better pre-kids if you do it the right way, like the stuff you teach. The knowledge gap was insane. It's better now, but it's still not well known. Like they talked about. It's not talked about enough, really.
It's not talked about, and I do agree. Like when I started as a PT, I think, to be honest, I think the level of PTs was very different then in the past to what it is now as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's a much higher standard generally. When I started, I'm writing out programs on a piece of paper before I do them, sort of a thing. And I think it's great that there is a higher standard now, but I think that higher standard needs to apply to postpartum training in general, because the fact is, like, it's, yes, that early rehab phase after you've had your baby, those first few months, it's maybe the information about that is not there, and it should be. But the fact is, like, once women have had a baby, they're postpartum forever, essentially.
Yeah.
And clients that had a baby 10 years ago, they've got ab separation still that they hadn't known about. We do work to heal that, which you can down the track. Like, it's not just like, oh, you've missed your 6-week window now, there's nothing you can do. So we do work to heal that, and then they're getting fitter and they're getting stronger, and they're moving through those plateaus with their health and fitness. And, you know, if you're training mums, there's things that you can do as a coach to help them and to help them move through those strength plateaus and to, you know, like, feel better, for their posture to be better, to improve incontinence and manage prolapse and all of these sorts of things that maybe your mum clients are dealing with and not talking to you about. Like, I have very open conversations about this because I think it's super important, but I didn't my whole, you know, career as a PT. I wish I had have known what I know now when I started out too. But, you know, like, even when I did my PT certificate, like, you do a little bit of pre-postnatal stuff, don't you? You do, like, lie pregnant ladies on their back. It's basically to avoid liability.
Yeah,
so you
cover
don't
your
get
ass,
sued.
pretty much.
It's not to help people feel strong. And I think you know, if trainers are always thinking about not getting sued when they're training you, they're not actually going to push you to be stronger, right?
And it's kind of, because I remember a course I did. It was one of the early postpartum ones. And actually, this is where I was going to go with this question is like, let's say for people listening who are postpartum, which is like what you just said, every mum, what should they keep an eye out for with a coach they're working with? Like, not we're going to throw stones, but just more for like an idea of what they could be looking for. Because I remember when I did my course, and I will straight up put my hand up and say, like, I've got lots of cool tools and really good assessments on like what phases to train people in based off like certain things. But I'm a dude. It sounds, it's a bit of a cop out. Like, I can understand the science, I can understand the movement stuff, but I would say you're 100% going to be a better coach to mums than I am, because I didn't have to birth a child. I've got like the knowledge of it, but you know it. Like, this sounds really weird, but you know it deeply, but you know what I mean. So you know the little things, which I would say I miss.
I think it's the education that you do around the bodies as well. Like, I could sort of guinea pig things on myself. Like, you feel things. Like, I had quite bad ab separation actually, so I was my own sort of test subject with preparing that, and you know, like your ribs change and your hips change and all of these sorts of things. So I could sort of test those things on myself. But you know, ultimately, if you have a trainer that has had 2 cesareans and all of a sudden they're like an expert on pre-postnatal fitness, it's not really like that. At the same time, there is more to it. But I think, you know, as a mum, if you're working with a coach, I think you have to understand that maybe the education is not there if you do have prolapse, if you do have like symptoms of incontinence, if you do have you know, like ab separation that's persistent, and you can do things to self-assess that at home. And so if you do, particularly I think if you do have these symptoms, or you're concerned that there's something that doesn't feel quite right, I would seek out a qualified postpartum coach.
Yeah.
To help you. Because you can do more harm than good to your body by pushing it with exercise and lifting heavy, and it's not just a matter of, you know, like pushing through when you're fatiguing. Like I would hate to see people trying to improve their health and fitness doing the exact reverse.
Yeah, I think it's a good. Yeah, there's good women's health physios as well now. Like, a lot more than what there used to be. I think we've got like 6 or 7 locally in our town, which when I started as a PD, we had none, I think, if any.
Yeah, so, we've got a few too, but it's like the wait lists are so long.
Yeah. It's kind of, and I think that's why I liked what you said. Like, there's things you can do yourself to like self-assess, which is really cool. And we can sort of talk about what they are if you want to, or we can give them a resource later that they can check out, which would be probably handy. I wanted to sort of go into strong. Strong as a mum. Like, how would you define strong as a mum? Because I was just training before, and I was watching Tia Toomey so if anyone doesn't know, she's a CrossFit athlete. She's Australia's #1 and the world #1. She just had a kid last year. She's back, and she just crushed the quarterfinals, and she won it all. Like, she come first in everything and third in one of them. Like, she's like an outlier, but it shows like what strong can be after becoming a mum. And she talks about the journey now, which is kind of cool. Not like you have to go to that extreme, but it's like, what is a strong mum?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, before I before I was pregnant first time, I was fighting. I actually found out I was pregnant halfway through a fight camp. So
when you told me that story, that was crazy. Let's go into that. That's nuts.
night, and it, it was actually a really challenging thing. And, like we might go off on a tangent here, but it sort of does fit into that whole mindset around strength. Because I think, you can be strong as a mum. Like if I sacrificed a lot of my time essentially to go back to that type of training now, like I was at an elite level of fitness. I honestly think that I could get back to that now with my body, but it's a sacrifice. It was a sacrifice then. I didn't have a social life. I spent all my time at the gym. I didn't go out. Like my boyfriend was like, "Are you ever going to come home?" It's hard, and so if I was to do that now, it would be sacrifices that I don't want to have to make. But I think for most mums that I work with, like we just want to feel that we can be capable in everything that we have to do. So it's sort of like a mental strength as well as a physical strength. Like I don't need to be, like super elite fight fit now, but I need to feel like I can, pick things up and put things down without hurting my back. I want to be able to run around the block. I want to be able to do a few chin-ups at the park if I want to do that. And I want to feel like I can juggle having the kids at home, running a business, my own health, my own fitness, and like that's hard too.
I think you nailed it in the sense of it's kind of like capacity. Like there's like Brett Jones, I think, from the Strong First guys. But anyway, he has this idea of like just your capacity is a shot glass or is a glass. The amount of shit, your daily life shit that goes into it is going to based on like how much you can take on before you have a spillover effect. It is like the stronger you are, the bigger your glass you got. So you can handle more of life's shit before you have like those overwhelmed moments and stuff. So when I used to talk to mums as well, they're like, why do I need to get stronger? Because there was always that friction point still of like strong means bulky.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it just allows you to handle more of life's shit.
Mm-hmm.
You're more resilient. Like you're not going to stop shit from happening, but you get back into alignment faster, I feel, when you have that strength element, mentally and physically. I think when you get the physical, the mental comes along for the ride most of the time because you got that there. If that makes sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes now, like when I think back to how I used to train, I was mentally very strong. Like you have to be strong to get through that stuff. And I don't feel I'm like that now. I feel like I've become a bit softer.
I would. So, yeah, this is interesting. This is good. So I would challenge that because I would say you've taken it from where your training was, then that mental resilience, and just shifted it over for mum life, where you're able to deal with so much stuff as a mum, which is, I always preface this to say, like, it's different for dads because we have a disconnect ability, which is insane. We can disconnect and just do the thing, and then we're like, oh yeah, we're off. No worries. Like I can go down in the garage with the kids screaming and I'll still train. I'm fine. But if Kat goes down in the garage and they come down, she will go upstairs with the kids. So there's always that kind of thing. But yeah, the only reason I would challenge it is because I talk about it with the parents I coach. They're like, I'm not disciplined. I'm like, you are. You're looking after tiny humans. Like that takes a lot of discipline to do. It's just you move discipline from this thing that you didn't have to worry about anything else before. It's moved over here. And your life's still full. It's the same kind of fullness. It's just they've swapped.
Yeah,
I do get what you mean with like, I guess the ability to complete the training that you were doing, if that makes sense. Which I would kind of agree. The stuff I was used to do, I wouldn't be able to do anymore, time-wise, or want.
Yes, part of it. I spend less time training now than I used to spend warming up to train. Like I'm not joking.
I think that's a good point too. When we talk about like training parents and stuff, the stuff I used to do before becoming a dad was like so lengthy and drawn out because I had so much capacity and time to do whatever I want. And now it's like, it's always like big bang for your buck kind of stuff. Like, what's going to give me the biggest bang in this next 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I do working with the mums I train as well, because, you know, realistically, we don't have an hour to spend working out, even if it's at home. So like 10 to 30 minutes is the sweet spot. And all of my workouts are, you know, that amount of time now. And honestly, there would have been a time where I wouldn't have believed you if you told me that I could actually get results in that time, because I'd come from that, you know, the long, lengthy, drawn out 3 hours. Like, you go for a run for 5Ks, and then you do some stretches, then you do some shadow boxing, then you hit pads for a bit, then you on the bags, then you, oh, let's do a bit of sparring now, like finish off. And, you know, 3 hours later, that's it. But there's no way you could do that now, right?
No, and I'm sort of curious, like, not concerned. The way it comes out, but I kind of lean into this when I think you might too. That when I talk to dads and mums about getting in shape, getting back to where they want to be, all that kind of stuff, I'm like the biggest reason they don't do something is usually time. And I say to them, like, that is your superpower, because you're only going to do stuff, and you should only look at stuff that you know is guaranteed going to work, and it's fun to do because you can do it around the kids and you're going to show up for it. And when it just changes the conversation, so to speak, like, it is literally a benefit that you have less time. You're not going to fluff around doing stuff that doesn't matter. We just get in, get the job done, get out, because that's going to benefit the family more, and it'll bring the family up more rather than spending an hour every day in the gym. Like, I do throw stones at this sense with like F45 and the challenges they do, where they pay, like, you kind of get paid for getting these amazing results, but people are doing like double session days. And I know lots of parents who have done it. Like 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
But that's why they only do it for like 8 weeks.
Yeah. And then what happens? Like, you know, you can't maintain that, can you?
No. I think, like, if parents listening now, especially mums, like, lean into the idea that you got no time. Because it's like, cool, so my life's full. How do I get results with what I'm doing? Or, like, what micro changes can I make to start nudging to where I need to go? That's a better conversation in your head, instead of just constantly thinking, I need more time, which will never come until the kids leave home, which is the way things are going. That'll be like when they're 30.
Exactly. I mean, you know, like, you're probably the same, but before I became a parent, you listen to parents, and like, I would listen to mums talk, and they're like, oh, I didn't have time to eat today. I didn't have time to have a shower. I didn't have time to toilet. And I was like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
And I do get it now. There's some days where I'm like, wow, I skipped lunch, or I haven't had a drink of water in a while. But the thing is, what I've realised is I can go through a day and forget to do things, and forget to go to the toilet, and forget to have a glass of water and all of those things. Or I can choose to not. I can choose to do all of those things. And it's not because I'm less busy the next day. It's because I've just made that decision in my head. I'm like, I'm not going to get caught up in all of the craziness. I'm going to make that time to make myself a sandwich, or I'm going, do you know what I mean? And it's just that tiny mindset shift. I found it really interesting, to be honest, because I think the time is there. We always have the time. Like, if you had to take your kid to a doctor's appointment every day for the next month, you would make the time, and it would be there. And it wouldn't be that you'd have to like shift too much around. Like, you'd find it. So I think a lot of it's in our
I
heads.
just don't agree with that. It's kind of like the idea of, like, excuses are valid, I think, when you don't have awareness, when you can't see what's going on. And this is where, like, when you start looking at the things you do every day and you know what's going on, the excuses are no longer valid. It's just a choice in the end at that stage. And it's fine. It's like, as soon as you have that choice and the awareness is there, it's like, I can choose to skip meals, like you said, like do these other things, or I can find time and do that 5 minute thing. I can do that 5 minute, like a better idea, Pilates move to help with whatever. Once you're in that choice bubble, it's cool because it gives you agency back. So it gives you the power back. So whatever choice you make is fine, but you don't have you can't complain about it afterwards because it's just the way you played it out, which is hard for people to hear. Like, there's a dad I'm working with right now who is challenging with this. Like, it's a different tangent, but his life is so chockers and he's really struggling to get things in. And we're doing this awareness framework with him where he's just checking to see what he's doing every day at what times. Like, there's a lot now. I was like, after a couple of days, like, now you know what you're doing. You choose. But if you choose not to do the thing that's going to get you closer to the goal, you can't complain about it anymore. That's not fair on your family. It's not fair on anyone else because it's your choice, which sounds really bullish. But I think what I'm trying to get across is, like, mums are really good at sacrificing themselves for the greater good, which is their family. Like, it's just a natural thing. Well, dads will, if we want to eat, we'll eat. The kid's broken their arm, go take them to the hospital. I'm just going to get something to eat first. we'll always figure out what we need to do because we have, like, it's not always the case, but we have a great way of disconnection. But Kat talks about it all the time. I'm sure you've had this too. Like, I want Kat to do more strength work so she can do more trail running, but she works away from home and I do all the kid stuff, like getting her around and everything. So she has mad mum guilt where she doesn't want to spend any extra time for herself, even though she's working. She doesn't want to do any extra time for herself because she feels like she's taking away from the family. When, even though consciously she knows this will help the family, it's still that battle between the two, which I'm guessing you probably see that a ton.
Yeah, and mum guilt, it's the thing that I have conversations with women about this every day. I experience myself. I think a lot about it. I'm sort of like, try and really feel into what's going on and where these thoughts are coming from. And it's a challenging one. But I think there's two main things. I think part of it is the change in our identity when we become a mother, like within us. And I think part of it is the changing role of women in society, and how, like we've got more available to us now as women. We can have the family, we can have the career, we can run a business, we can have our own mortgage, we can do all of these other things. But then it's sort of like, I think we put the pressure on ourselves, or society puts the pressure on us, or a bit of both, that we need to be doing it all.
Yeah.
So we need to be the primary caregiver and the family person, but then we also need to be bringing in some money, or like having the side hustle, the rise of online business. Few years, like all of a sudden, all mums are selling bed sheets and Tupperware and supplements online, and if you're not doing that, it's like, oh, should I be doing something like that? And I think we've asked for all this stuff, right? Which is great, we've got it, but now we're trying to do it all at once, and I think we're starting to realise that it's challenging, but we don't want to say it's challenging because we've asked for it. We wanted this, right? We wanted to have it all, and I think that we can have it all, but we can't have it all at the same time. And there's always going to be with everything. There's always going to be sacrifices that you have to make in certain areas to move forward in others. And I think it's just a really interesting time. I sort of feel like we're the generation that we're getting all of this stuff, but we don't know what to do with it yet. I sort of feel it needs another generation.
Yeah. Yes.
Like maybe my kids, they'll be like, you know, it's like, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of prisoners of war.
Yeah.
It's like when, okay, these prisoners, they were released after all of these years. They haven't been eating, they've been starved. They're like, you know, like shells of humans. And then all of a sudden they're released, war's over, and they eat all this food and they get super sick or they die from it because they just like, oh, like so much there. Better get more. And you know, like next time prisoners got released, they were like, whoa, 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 like you've got all this food here, but don't eat it all. You don't have to eat it all at once. But it's like, I feel it's like that with mums now. We've got all this stuff that we can do, like, but we don't have to do it all at once. I feel we haven't sort of worked out that balance yet. I feel I haven't worked out that balance. I know a lot of people I talk to haven't worked out that balance. I don't have the answer, but I think it's definitely part of the mum guilt stems from that, I think.
Yeah, that's super. This is a good topic. I like, this is a big pendulum swing. You look like it was all like mum stay at home and mums are in the kitchen. It was that period for a while. And now, right now, it has swung the other way where it's almost like we still, sounds really bad, we still want you to stay at home. We still want you in the kitchen, but you got to get a job as well. And you got to do this and you got to do that. So yeah, it's like, it's a massive swing. I was about to say it's stupid, but it is what it is. And it will be like coming back to find that balance. And it's super interesting that you said, like, I haven't found it yet. And there's other people I talk to who haven't found it yet. I kind of see that as like the never-ending story is literally what I love about what I do is like helping dads, because I'm constantly figuring out shit myself. And then whatever I figure out is like, oh, this actually worked pretty well. I'm going to pass that on. This is useful. You can use it. It's kind of cool. And I reckon that's a reason why a lot of mums would come work with you, because you're out there. I use the analogy of like you're walking through the forest with a machete and chopping down the path for them and just figuring it out. And have you read James Clear's 4 burners theory? So he has this idea. It's a good blog. I'll reference it in the show notes after. He's like, you got 4 burners. And it's like, I use the analogy of 3, but there's one's like, you got your work, you got your family, and you got your health. And there was another one. I can't remember what the other one is. But you got one gas cylinder that feeds these 4 burners. And he goes, what we all want, especially parents, is we want all burners to run at 100%. But we can't, because there's only so much gas. So whatever runs hot, everything else has got to simmer down to allow that one thing to run hot. And it's a really good way he puts it. He goes, you can try and have all the things running well, but you've got to get people to come in and support you to allow that thing to run well. It is like finding that unique balance between, like what you're saying is like building that perfect life that we want. What does that look like? And then there's always one parent on this coin who's the primary carer, so to speak. And what do they do that needs to happen to allow to live the perfect average life, which is what I'm literally working out myself as well. It's just a really good conversation. I think a lot of people will have probably this subconscious thought of like, I need to do all these things. And it'd be interesting to sort of see how you do it, but I kind of teach it in like decision filters. It's like filter number 1, get your family shit in place first. Like, what does that look like? And I call it dad mode. So talking to the dads, get your dad mode in place. What is your dad mode time? And that has to be locked in. And then the next part is like, what is your Well, I call it Spartan Dad. So that's the next thing, the fitness, health, whatever it is. Plug that thing in. And then my thing, especially I'm looking from the lens of me being the primary carer for the kids, is like, cool, what is my work or my passion or whatever it is? What do I want to give back to everybody? And how does it fit below those first two filters? And that's the only way I've managed to get my head in the right space where I'm not FOMO, or I don't have FOMO, where I'm not comparing to other people. I had to go through these decision filters, and I'm like, I like what they're doing over there. Like someone who's seems like they're crushing on social media as a parent. They've got tons of money or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But it doesn't suit my filters. So I kind of just push it aside.
Mm.
And that's where I was swinging back around to, even though it was a very big Quentin Tarantino tangent. It's like comparison. The comparisons, and I obviously blame social media for this because it does a lot it doesn't help it. But our comparison to what other people have, and we think we want that thing, most of the time we don't. But a lot of people, I think, don't actually know what they really, really want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And I think, we get caught up on being busy and being on the crazy coaster, and we don't press pause until something goes wrong and something happens. And then we're like, oh, actually, no, I don't like this. Or maybe I need to focus more on this and less on this. But I think we probably could all do with pressing pause and asking ourselves, checking in with ourselves, is this happy? Is this, hitting my 3 filters or whatever? Because I think that you can really get caught up in not doing that.
Yeah. And like, there's always, and like, we're not pointing at people saying like, hey, you're doing a shit job. It's like, it's all good intentions. Like, we're all wanting to do the most we can with what we have. And I know for myself, when I create enough space to work through my own shit to figure out what I really wanted out of whatever it is that I wanted to do, everything sort of started making sense from that. And it was like you said, it was an outside circumstance that tripped me up, where it was like I was working through my own stuff all last year, but it was this Theo's potentially getting assessed for autism thing, and the big feelings and swings that he had was like, yeah, I need to step back. I just need to create space for him. And that was the thing that changed everything. So everything was like, cool, that's my filter. And as soon as that happened, it was like, all right, this all makes sense now. And it was that thing had to fall in place, which is really interesting. I couldn't find that one thing before. And now it's there. I'm like, okay, now I know what I want to do. Now I know what I need to do. And I think, like you said, I've talked about in another episode, safety behaviors. We block the space as much as we can with stuff. We just put shit in there where we might need that space to actually, for stuff to bubble up and tell us that we need to make a change, which is scary for people, I would say.
Yeah, I think it is. And, I think I do see this with the bums that I work with, because like you say, we are very good at not putting ourselves first and not giving us our own time. And I think my point that I sort of didn't talk about before, that we lose our identity or we change our identity. It takes a while to sort of circle back around and work out again what we want and even who we are. And I think that's something that's maybe not talked about enough as well. Like when I was fighting, it was a funny thing, because fighting's still male dominated sport, right? Like, yes, there's a lot of women, or more women there now, but still very male dominated. And like the attitude that I would get from the majority of people when I talked about it was like, when are you giving up? When are you throwing in the towel? Like, or are you worried about, getting scars on your face, or like broken jaw or broken nose? Like, you wouldn't say this
Yeah.
to a guy, right?
No.
You wouldn't. It's
Yeah.
such a double standard. Or like, oh, you're getting a bit muscly, or you're not nice to hug anymore. You're too, and do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a double standard. But this thing that I wanted to do, and this was sort of what I pinned my identity to, and I was like, that was me. I loved it. I didn't care about all of these comments. I just sort of found it very interesting that, and I got them from males and females, right? It was gender biased. Then I become a mum, and like I said, I got pregnant during fight camp, so it was very unexpected and like sudden stop to my training. It wasn't like, okay, I'm ready to give this up now. I'm ready to, like, go live the quiet life in Echuca Moama. But I become a mum, and all of a sudden, all of these comments are like, oh, it looks so good on you. It looks so natural. Like, you're glowing. It's like you found your thing. And inside, I was like, but I still feel like I want to be a fighter. Like, I didn't feel like my thing. It was such a weird time when I was trying to let go of this thing that I'd pinned my identity to, that people didn't think I should be doing. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing the thing that I should be doing, right? Like, I'm becoming a mum. Like, this is what I'm here for. And I'm like, it doesn't feel right. And it was such a weird time. And that mental adjustment for me honestly took years.
I was going to ask, when did it shift, or has it shifted?
It probably took 2 years. I'm not exaggerating. When I was, it's not that I was not happy being a mum. I was. And I think you'll hear, well, maybe you won't, but I hear a lot of mums talk about this, and they're like, I don't want to talk about this because I don't want to say that I'm not happy, or it wasn't all that it's to be, or I'm struggling. Like, I don't want to say that, because I am grateful and I do love it, and it's what I want to do. But we have this internal struggle. I think we all have this internal struggle of giving up what we used to do, who we used to be, for this other thing. And it's like we're just supposed to do it overnight. And it's hard. And I think a lot of the mum guilt as well comes from that, because it's, we should be loving it. We should be loving every minute of it, but maybe we're not loving every minute of it. But why? Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's hard. It was an interesting shift, but it probably took me 2 years to give up that sort of I'm a fighter notion, and just be like, yeah, cool, this is my new chapter now.
That's, well, I think it would hit some people hard. I'm thinking of like, there's a friend I've got here. She's a mum. She watches every episode. She literally gives me a video play-by-play after the episode about what she thought about the episode. And she shared something very similar, like what you kind of shared, like where it was, it's hard, like it was like staying at home, becoming a mum. It's like it's thrust upon you because of conditioning, society conditioning. And I'm thinking back to you. So you're in fight camp, and then you find out you're pregnant. You had to immediately stop. That would have been, I can't even think, because I can't. I don't know what it feels like to be a mum. So that piece, I can't connect that piece. But just being in, say for me, if I was in a camp in fighting and something happened, it was immediately done. Like, emotionally, that would have been a whirlwind. Like,
Yeah. It's a funny thing because I wasn't upset. Oh, but I didn't know how to deal with it, I don't think, because that was my whole life. Like it was what I did, it was what I spent all my time doing. Like I wasn't even training because like our training is quite physical. I, did a bit on the bag and that's it. But it was it was such a weird thing to just it was just like taking your life and going, right, cut it there, let's start afresh. There was no sort of ease in, ease out. That's what it felt like. It was like I just decided to do something completely different. Like woke up one day, I was like, right, I'm not doing that anymore. And I think it took me a long time to mentally work through that.
It's kind of letting go.
Yeah.
Of this piece of you, which has been a massive piece of your personality for so long. It's like I think this is a really cool conversation and what we've gotten to.
Yeah.
Where like mums who are listening, even dads, or it doesn't really matter who. But there's probably moments in someone's life where there's that just big line falls down and the whole journey completely changes. And you have to let go of that piece of you to be able to move forward the way you want to move forward, if that makes sense.
Because the funny thing is, though, like when I did let go of that, everything started to fall into place again.
Oh, that's cool.
I think especially with my training, and I talk about this with my mum clients too. Like I think a lot of people try and go back to doing what they used to do and getting results how they used to train, and it's not realistic anymore, and it's not necessarily what you need to do. But I think for me, like when I did let go of that notion of how I'm training, and I did let go of, like those expectations of what I needed to do and just started to do something else, like that's when I started to see results again with my training. And that's, I think that was a catalyst for moving on in other areas. Like if I'm happy in my body, I'm generally pretty happy, I guess.
That's big. Like we're kind of brushing it, but you letting go of that and then everything sort of started clicking after that. Like I know most people know this. Like we need to let go of past stuff to move forward effectively. But I don't know if people realize how big those anchors can be that just sort of hold us back from what we want to become. And we might not even know it, to be honest.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, I don't know, maybe this is a nice circle back to my mum's becoming strong thing, because, like we talk about getting your pre-baby body back, but you're not getting your pre-baby life back. And I wouldn't want my pre-baby life back. Like I had a great time, but I don't want to do that again. And I think they go hand in hand. And I think that, that idea can really limit us sometimes in how we can get stronger going forwards, and like mentally and physically. Like we can be better than what we've been. So why not focus on that? And I think, like if some people can realize that in a shorter amount of time than what it took me, that's awesome.
It's super cool. Like it's kind of like this is a generalization, but it's like the idea of like depression is like holding on to things of your past and you wish you still had it. And like anxiety is like looking too far ahead and not knowing what it's going to be. And this is what was for me. That was me, especially as being a dad. I had to let go of this uber, like especially after being an alcoholic, I went straight into like 2 hours a day of training. That was my addiction afterwards. And I became a dad and I was like, I can't do that anymore. And I had depression as a dad because I had this thing from my past that I wanted to bring forward, like I became painting this identity as this uber fit guy after alcoholism. Like I completely changed my life around, and now I'm this huge fit person, and now I'm a dad, and I'm not. I can kind of scratch myself for 5 minutes being a stay-at-home dad. So it's like touchy subject, but it's kind of like that whole letting go almost gets you back to present. And everyone tells us, like I know everyone, like my dad tells me, he's like, enjoy your kids now. This is the best time. Like I know it's challenging as shit, but it's going to be the best time because they're going to get older. They're going to want money. They're going to have all these other real world problems. Right now, their problem is that they're fighting over Lego. But this is amazing when you look at it in that lens. And it's hard to see when you're in it, but a lot of what I've been doing probably the last 2 years is like trying to get back to that present feeling and moving away from big expectations of the future and letting go of past me. It's like, what is my most energetic self now in my kids' spaces? So as they grow up, I'll use that the eulogy analogy. If they're at my funeral, how do I want them to talk about me? Which creates another good question. And it's like, do you want them to talk about like, oh, Dad was cool, but he just talked about his past all the time. And all the stuff he used to do before us. Which is when I was journaling this and I wrote that down, I'm like, that's hard to read. So I was like, I've got to change that. And then that's when I started shifting to this more present thing. And I think, and it's so cool. I think we're going to have to have another one because the mum dynamic and the mum guilt thing and then the art of letting go, it's kind of, they're kind of intertwined. I haven't really got it in my head how those pieces work together. You probably got a better idea than I do. But it's like shedding the skin. And like you said, like the whole message for postpartum is like, get your pre-mum body back. And I'm the same as you. I kind of don't like that discussion. I'm like, you're a mum, but you're a next level human. Like it's better. It's an ascension. You've literally just gone up a level.
Yeah, it's an evolution, you know.
Yeah.
The evolution of your life, and I think you've got to keep going forwards and work out what the next chapter is and how we can rock that next chapter that doesn't have to stop now. Like your fitness doesn't stop. Maybe it's been on the back burner for a while. That's fine. Mine was on the back burner for a while. I'm a health and fitness professional. Like it's all right. It's like we said before, you know, one thing burns a bit brighter while the other one gets turned down a bit. But, you know, keep working at the balance.
Yeah. Which it's kind of like, I like, well, as soon as I started saying like, this is the never ending story is finding life's balance, it just took the pressure off trying to figure it out. Like, I don't think it's just a game now.
Ask the questions.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, what would you say if there's mums listening to this now? What kind of questions do you think they should ask themselves or other people that could help them figure out their next clear steps, I guess? Like, obviously, the next clear step is reaching out to you. That is the most obvious step. We'll have show notes and everything.
They can reach out to me. I'll give you some free resources. I love chatting, as you know. Look, so I think firstly, press pause on your life for 10 minutes and just reflect a little bit. Are you happy with your health? Are you happy with your family dynamic? Are you happy with where your career is at? And know that it's not all going to be perfect. That's okay. But I'm a health and fitness professional, so I'll talk about that. if you've put your health on the back burner, maybe it does deserve a little bit more of your time. And we talk about, like making yourself a priority or not. I don't think you need to make yourself the number one priority for you to make a change. I don't think you need to sacrifice family time or sacrifice your career in order to, lose 10 kilos or whatever. But you need to make yourself a priority some of the time and put yourself in the mix. And I think that a lot of mums don't, I'll say we don't put ourselves in the mix enough. And the support is there, but we've got to ask for it. And I know to ask for it, we have problems asking for things, but it's about finding that balance in that whole big thing I was talking about earlier. We have all of this stuff that we can do now. I think it's okay to seek support. It's okay to ask for help with your body or with the kids or with any of it. And then, check in with your body. I would recommend seeing a pelvic health physio.
Yeah.
Get it just for your own peace of mind. And I think for anyone who's had a baby, it's definitely worth doing that. I guess that would be my number one sort of body advice for anyone, particularly if you're experiencing symptoms. They're common, but they're not normal, and you can help your body years down the track, 10 years, 20 years down the track. It's possible.
Yeah, and there's something you said when you were going through all that. You kind of brushed past it. It's like putting yourself in the mix, but it was something that before that was like, and you deserve it. Like, it's totally worth spending that little bit of moment of reflection and a little bit of time on yourself because you deserve it. I think that's a big thing that could be in relation to the mum guilt thing. Do I deserve to spend this time on myself? It's like, hells yeah. The shit mums go through. Yeah. It's like, I know in my head it's a no-brainer. So, but I know that's a lot to work through. But that was awesome. I think we're going to have to do a follow-up because there's stuff we touched on I want to go deeper into. But how do people find you? Where are you on the socials?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at mums_health_hub.
Nailed that. That's perfect.
Reach out to me through there. Same thing on Facebook. I've got some free resources you can download as well. And yeah, always happy to have a chat.
Yeah, and it's the same. Like, reach out to me if you want me to get you in touch with Talia. Like, any way you got to. Don't feel like you're, again, I say it in most episodes, but you're not alone in this. You can always just reach out to either one of us and chat. And if it's women health stuff, I'll just connect you with Talia and I'll just hop out of the group so you can talk all the things without a dude being in there. And I think that's pretty helpful. And I think that was really cool. Is there anything you want to leave with everybody before we wrap up? Got anything else, Talia? Anything else you can think of?
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.